In the next 3 videos, I'd like to share with you a variety of different lesson plans that you can try right now in your classroom. The first one's going to be a fairly simplistic lesson plan that you can do with your kindergartners. I like to introduce this project with the book Too Much Glue. This is a fun project to do at the end of the year after your students have been practicing super hard all year long with those glue expectations, self-assessing their success with glues. They're ready to move on to first grade as successful gluers, and now we're going to ruin them. This book, Too Much Glue, talks about a boy who just uses way too much glue and gets stuck in a big giant mess and has to be scraped off the table to go home. It's a fun book, it's interactive, and we spend a lot of time actually reviewing our glue expectations while we're going through the book. So students not only are having fun, but they're also just reviewing one more time those glue expectations in the classroom. After I'm done reading the book, we talk about, again, how we use glue in the classroom. Generally, what I like to do is create some altered papers with students before this lesson plan. If I ever have 10-15 minutes at the end of class, I like to set out some unusual materials, let them print on those papers with unusual materials. For this particular project, I like to use monochromatic colors because while it's fun and busy, it's not so busy that it takes away from our subject. And you can actually explain that to your students. We like to use the same colors close together because it doesn't take away from our subject. It's fun and interesting to look at, but not more interesting than our final touches. When I start this project, these papers are dry because we've been working on them throughout the school year and setting them aside. They have their names on them and they're ready to use those papers. I like to pass out black cardstock for this paper because we're about to use a lot of different materials, and a lot of different materials need potentially a much heavier substrate. So this cardstock is a great material to use when you're using something a little bit heavier, when you're needing something with a little bit more of a backbone to it, and it doesn't cost a ton to purchase and use with your students. When I'm ready to start building a composition with my students, I like to take this first part to be a non-representational, fun experiment with collage. This is a great introduction for them to play with papers and glue papers and create an image that doesn't have the stress of building something that people will necessarily need to recognize. So what the students will do is they'll start cutting their paper into random shapes. And they can be various sizes and shapes. Once students have cut a variety of shapes, once again, we are practicing cutting skills, but there's really no stress behind it because students are able to cut pretty much whatever they want as they're working and not feel the obligation to have a shape that somebody would necessarily recognize. Now that I've cut some shapes, I want to arrange it onto my composition. So students can kind of play with overlapping things. They can see what it would look like if we didn't necessarily like this here. Maybe we move it down here and we enjoy that a little bit more. So they can kind of move around and try their different compositions. Once they've found something that they like, then they can go ahead and glue their paper down. Remember, we're hopping like a bunny. We're leaving little bunny tracks all the way around the fence. And you can model this for your students all year long. This is enough glue to glue this paper to our background. Students can self-assess. Is there any glue showing around the outside? We are good to go. I've used the correct amount of glue, and we can continue gluing on. While the students are gluing their pieces down, I take their photographs. I ask them to look shocked or scared, and some of those pictures are really fun and funny to use. I print those out from our color printer, and then we choose a contrasting color to glue that down onto. So for example, I've used the cold colors here, purple, blue, and green. I choose a hot color, like orange, to glue their picture down onto. And then we're going to bubble cut around that image. By bubble cutting around the image, we are focusing our eye in on the subject, which is our very scared student, right? And we can have some fun bubble cutting. I like to bubble cut kind of in a shocked way, make zigzag lines. Students can draw those zigzag lines around their body and then cut on those zigzag lines for extra cutting practice. Once they're done cutting their picture from the contrasting color, they can glue it down onto their composition. This is where things get a little extra crazy in the classroom. You can see here, this is my final product, and this is my background composition here. I've bubble cut in my contrasting color. Here's my shocked face. And once we are ready, we go ahead and just apply too much glue over the picture. When students work, they love to just squeeze glue right over the top of their picture. We don't want to cover our face completely. We don't want to cover our arms or body completely. But we want to add just pretty much as much glue as they want to all over their work. Once they're done adding all that glue, I take out some of the fun mixed media materials that I have, such as cut yarn and sequins and beads and things like that. And they can start to sprinkle those mixed media items on top of that glue. So you can see here on my finished example, I've got buttons and feathers and glitter, all the fun things, a googly eye, how about that? That's fun, right? And we glue all those things down over the top of that blucky, stucky mess, as they say in the book. And the kids just really have fun just dumping things all over their composition. When they're done, they have a too much glue self-portrait, and they absolutely love this project because they're like breaking all of the rules. In our next video, I'm going to show you a slightly more advanced collage project.